Hello, everybody. My name is Camille, and this is my colleague Ademus, and we are the PPCs from the Master of Counselling placement team. And it's our pleasure to have Johanna de Wever and Nigel Polak as well, who are joining us from PACFA. So Johanna is the CEO of PACFA, and Nigel is our president of PACFA as well. And the idea of this interview today is to hear their voices, and for you as our students to get to know both Johanna and Nigel a little bit more, but also hear their words of encouragement as you embark on your placement journey and then your counselling career after you finish placement. So it's wonderful to have you both join us, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you for having us.
No worries. And before we sort of get into the words of encouragement, a special message for our students, we're just curious to know about both of your portfolios or your primary responsibility as the PACFA CEO as well as president. We will start with you first, Johanna, if you can tell us a little bit more about your primary roles and responsibility.
Thank you very much, and it's very nice to be here. So PACFA is a self-regulating body for counselling and psychotherapy, and as CEO, I oversee the operations of the organisation from an administrative, project management and staff development lens, which essentially means that we are ensuring the quality assurance of the registration of practitioners out there, which has an ultimate aim of community safety, making sure that vulnerable people are able to access the best trained counsellors and psychotherapists to help them at their time of need.
All right, excellent. What about your portfolio there, Nigel? What's the difference between, like, the president and CEO, especially, I guess, from a student's point of view or understanding?
The role of the president and the CEO is very different. So I'm the president of PACFA, and so I'm the chairperson of the board of directors. And PACFA is unique in our sector in that we're made up exclusively of volunteer board directors who don't have an interest in any financial interest in any other organisations, training organisations or other professional development organisations in Australia, so that we are very, very clean in terms of how we look after the profession and the members of the profession, the counsellors and the psychotherapists and the Indigenous healing practitioners in Australia. So we're all volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I put many, many hours every week to building the profession. The role of the board, and particularly the president of the board, is to look after the big picture, the strategic objectives of the organisation, looking at what is it that we want for our professions now and into the future, what's best for our professions, what's best for the counsellors, the psychotherapists and the Indigenous healing practitioners in Australia, and how do we as an organisation make decisions that are solely focused on what is best for those professionals.
Yeah. So while there are some differences, but sounds like obviously, both Anna and Nigel, yourself work really close together with a very common focus, visions, as well as a mission. At the end of the day, as you mentioned, is what's best for the profession, what's best for the members, what's best for the community, the participants, and consumer. So I think that's what really a common ground, and we really appreciate all of you who are volunteers, in addition to all the responsibilities and priorities that you have to dedicate yourself to advance this counselling and psychotherapy profession.
Thanks, Ademus. We really rely on our volunteers at PACFA, who are all practitioners themselves. We also have some specialists who volunteer who aren't necessarily practitioners, who help us with areas like governance and finance and managing risks. And so, yeah, the volunteer and the contribution and being part of a community is a huge part of being a part of PACFA.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Yes, I'm sure our students are really going to be benefiting from hearing all this information that they probably don't know or have heard before. So it's wonderful. I'm also thinking from a student perspective as well, for our students that are watching today. From their lens, I guess a lot of them would be curious to know, how can PACFA support them now while they're currently doing their master's course, And then also importantly, once they've finished post-study, you know, what's PACFA's role in, I guess, supporting these students as they, you know, emerge into the counselling profession. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Maybe Johanna, we can start with you, and then Nigel, if you want to make any comments as well, feel free.
Thanks, Camille. So I think this is a really exciting time for the counselling profession. And so when we talk about what we can do for students, in many ways, it's about making sure that their opportunities are as wide and fortuitous as they should be. In a society where talking therapies are highly regarded, in high demand, and the community is really calling for the skills and access to the kind of expertise that your students are going to provide when they get to their professional maturity. You know, so really PACFA's core responsibility through our registration and membership model is to ensure the credibility of the profession. You know, there's a lot of confusion about what a counsellor is. There's a lot of confusion about who can be a counsellor and what a counsellor does. You know, PACFA has the highest standards for registration in counselling. So being able to register with PACFA is a real marker for someone that they are among the best in this profession. You know, they are making a commitment to quality and to safety and to prioritising the needs of the community. And we actually see that the employers in the sector recognise that. PACFA registration is the most sought after registration in the sector. There was some research last year that showed that. When it comes down to more kind of nuts and bolts things, we provide lots of access to really cost-effective CPD that our volunteers provide as part of the PACFA community. PACFA student members, and it's free to join as a student, have access to free insurance for their placements, which is popular with their training providers and placement organisers. We provide communities online that can provide career advice and peer support through our networks. So, you know, it's a really interesting and dynamic field at the moment, and PACFA is both moving from what we have done in the past and, you know, to a really exciting dynamic model about what we can do in the future, which is all fundamentally about safeguarding the profession and making sure that those opportunities for your students who are, you know, tertiary qualified and who should be swamped with fantastic opportunities when they graduate are able to get those opportunities, and that they're not, you know, they're not struggling with confusion about the role of counsellors or about the skills and expertise that they have to offer.
Wonderful. What a clear and strong, message that you just delivered then. Yeah, Johanna, thank you. Nigel, did you want to make any sort of further comment as well there?
Well, Johanna used the word CPD, and when you're a student, you might have not yet have got to CPD. So CPD stands for Continuing Professional Development. And there's different categories of CPD, but essentially to maintain your registration as a counsellor or psychotherapist in this country, you need to do 20 hours, at least 20 hours of continuing professional development each year. And so be able to access that continuing professional development at low cost is really critical. It's a huge thing because it can cost many, many thousands of dollars a year. And by offering it low cost and pre-approved by PACFA, you know you're getting high quality continuing professional development at the best value price. And it is by far the best value that you're going to find. The other thing that we offer is community. I talked about volunteers and volunteering earlier. One of the bonuses that we offer our volunteers is that they get their continuing professional development with PACFA for free. So there's this huge, onus and impetus and encouragement to get involved, be involved. As counsellors and psychotherapists, we work in isolation. We tend to work by ourselves in a room, and clients come and go. I do a lot of my work online, and so it's just somebody's on the screen, somebody's off the screen, somebody's on the screen. Literally right before this call, I've been had a couple of sessions, and I'm actually currently overseas. So there's actually possibilities. One of the questions we're coming to is, what can you do? So I can do this work overseas, but it's lonely. I'm sitting in a room by myself. So community is huge for counsellors and psychotherapists. We have this broad network of groups to join, and so I'll tell you a bit about the groups, but I'll also tell you a bit about my personal journey with PACFA. My personal journey with PACFA started as joining, like everybody else does, as a counsellor, a certified clinical counsellor, which is our lowest level of registration other than being a student representative, a student. And I joined my local branch, the Victorian branch, and I got involved in putting together networking events, in putting together continuing professional development locally in person in Melbourne. Then I put in an application to join the College of Counselling. So I joined the College of Counselling and I sat in the College of Counselling. And again, we continued to think about what was important for counsellors and to create initiatives and networking opportunities for counsellors, as well as putting on continuing professional development for counselling that we believe was important at the time. I've got a background in law, so the focus for me became around what's the intersection between law and counselling and what can we do that's really going to meet that need for counsellors, which is still a really important area. Then I was invited to support PACFA's conference, so I joined the conference committee and we put on a conference. We put on a conference in the middle of COVID, so it was a huge experience, and I'd never been involved in organising. Well, I had been involved in organising one conference before, but it was a great opportunity to actually take a leadership role in putting together a conference. Then I was invited to join the board as secretary. I became the secretary of the board, was secretary of the board for a couple of years, and then was invited to nominate as president. But all of these elections on the board, they're elected positions, so that the membership votes for the secretary, the membership votes for the president, the membership votes for all of the positions on the board. And on the board, we have representatives from counselling, representatives from psychotherapy. We have people who look after, help me out here, Johanna, we have people who look after ethics. We have people who look after professional standards. We have colleges in counselling and psychotherapy. And we have a research committee as well, and a representative from research. We've got colleges for counselling, psychotherapy, relationship counsellors, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander healing practitioners, and creative and experiential therapists. We have interest groups in gender, body, kinship, sexuality, which is language that our LGBTQI plus community came up with to best represent the way that they experience themselves. We've got an older people interest group, we've got a young person interest group, and we have branches in pretty much every state and territory. So there's all of these wonderful opportunities to get involved, to be part of a community, and to be part of, part of the advancing of the profession. And I think that's something that's really special about PACFA.
Yeah, what wonderful responses, I think, from a student's perspective. Yeah, they've gained so much by having this interview today, and learning about all the opportunities that are available to them through PACFA, and what they can equally bring to the organisation equally as well. And lovely, Nigel, thank you for sharing your story. I think that's encouraging. You yourself started out with baseline membership with PACFA and your journey there, and that's, I think, there'll be many students out there watching that going, wow, that's something I'd love to do as well. Yeah,
I think that, and I'm going to add to that, because the other side of the journey, professional journey, certified clinical counsellor, registered clinical counsellor, and then registered as a clinical supervisor. So there's a progression as well within the profession in terms of professional registration and accreditation.
Yeah. I guess that again highlighted the importance of ongoing professional development or learning and training, and certainly PACFA does provide these platform opportunities for our students or graduates who want to continue to stretch themselves, challenge themselves, and by being part of different interest groups or any sort of a specialized training or colleges they want to be part of. So I think that's really a fantastic opportunity and platform. I know that both Nigel and Johanna, both of you have been in counselling and psychotherapy field for a while, okay? And obviously you also seen the landscape changes over the years. So I'm just curious to know that, so as far as PACFA is concerned, what is the prospect for the counselling profession here in Australia?
Shall I start that one, Nigel, and then I'll throw to you? So I think, as I started to hint before, it's a really exciting time. So we had a commitment from the government in the budget last year to invest in national standards. And in many ways, this is the missing piece for how the government has been able to understand the profession so they could optimise its use through employment, potentially through rebates. All those kinds of opportunities rely on the government having absolute confidence in the training and skills of our workforce, and using registration, such as registration with PACFA, to address that. So The draft guidelines are due for circulation this year, and they're due to be signed off by the Minister in 2025. So I think your graduates are coming out at just the right time, where things are really going to start moving, and it's going to be a really exciting time in terms of seeing a whole lot of opportunities for counsellors across fields of schools, the acute settings, justice, all areas of health, social services. We're really seeing those opportunities expand in a way that they probably haven't in the last kind of 5 to 10 years.
So it sounds like a very optimistic and bright future then, if I may summarize that.
The future is bright. Yeah. And what our professions haven't realised historically is how important the registration process is in that journey. When you're a student, and then when you start to come out into the profession in Australia, there's a lot of talk around Medicare, about the professional discrimination between psychologists and counsellors. Why do psychologists get all the good stuff? Why don't counsellors get the same good stuff as the psychologists do? We study at uni, and the evidence says we're equally as effective and people like us better. So why wouldn't we get Medicare rebates? Why wouldn't we be GST free like the psychologists are? And what it comes down to is registration and trust. The community because of psychology's really tight registration processes and really tight vetting processes, the government and the community and the employers have been able to trust psychologists and the other health professions. Counselling is still getting there, but PACFA is on the right track because we are really tightening up our professional registration criteria. We are really positioning ourselves as a registration body. It sounds boring, but in terms of positioning the profession for the future, it's absolutely essential. So that's where the prospects are really starting to shine, because we now have a team of very, very highly skilled professionals working within PACFA who understand this landscape, both the political landscape and also the registration landscape, and also the training provider accreditation landscape. So we are the body, the peak body that is really going to take the professions into the future, and I have got no doubt about that.
Fantastic, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, again, a great, strong message, and yeah, very appreciative of.
Can I say a little bit more? Because as I've thought about it, I do a lot of supervision, and I do a lot of supervision for students on placement in master's programs, and I do a lot of supervision privately. And the range of places and the range of things that counsellors are doing is just incredible. And the kinds of work they're doing with the members of the community, from the youngest to the oldest, from babies to people who are people who are dying, or everything in between, all the way across the health sector. Some people are really working in the acute spaces of mental health. Other people are working in mental wellness and mental well-being, and really supporting development mental well-being. Next week, I'm doing webinars on financial well-being, and how we support mental health through financial well-being. We just I saw an email come out of PACFA today. It's focusing on physical health and the relationship between physical health and mental health. So where the opportunities are so vast, and our job is to raise the credibility so that our members get seen for those jobs as the capable professionals that they are.
We are in exciting times, aren't we? I think slowly counsellors are now being seen as equal across the other professions that we rub shoulders with. And like you said, Nigel, I've seen in my scope of practice as well, many counsellors securing positions in primary schools and secondary schools, where traditionally there'd be psychologists having those positions. And it's wonderful, to see the elevation of our role and our profession. It's really exciting. Yeah, exciting times, and the opportunities obviously that present themselves with PACFA as well. So as we draw this to a close, and we don't want to end because it's been such a wonderful conversation, if there was a message that you would like to, both of you, portray to our students as they are they're on the starting line of their placement, they're just about to take on a placement opportunity or explore one, about to sort of bring that theory into practice, what would be your sort of words of encouragement or message to them from both your points of view? Johanna, maybe we'll start with you again. Thank you.
Look, I will pass this mostly to Nigel, because he's the clinician and I'm the kind of behind the scenes, operational person, but I would just remind people that their work in the space is really important. And that's how we treat it. We treat it as really important. And that's why registration at the end of the day is in itself really important. Nigel?
The messages that I would give around placement is, to begin with, that placement's about exploration. It's about exploring yourself as a practitioner. It's about exploring the professional and the interdisciplinary, the multidisciplinary landscapes, because most placements do involve an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary team that works together. So exploring the ways that you want to be a therapist, who you are as a therapist, and the kinds of people that you are drawn to working with. You know, it's a really good opportunity to experiment and explore and see where you want to end up. Really use your supervisors. That's the second part of it. When you go into placement, you don't even know what supervision is. Yeah, but hopefully by the end of placement, you really understand that supervision is gold. We have 2 requirements for you to continue to be a professional in this space. 1, continuing professional development, 20 hours. 2, 10 hours of supervision a year at least. And if you have more than 400 client hours a year, then you need 15 hours of supervision. If you're a supervisor, you need another 5 hours of supervision on top of that. So supervision is at the heart of what we do. Learn how to use it. Learn how you can use supervision to help you become the kind of practitioner that you want to be. As I say to my supervisees, this isn't my supervision group, it's yours. This is your space. Take control, take ownership, and you decide what you want out of this supervision.
Great messages. Thank you both so much for your time. I know our students will absolutely be loving to watch this interview, and I think you've widened their lens by doing this today in terms of what PACFA is about, what they stand for, what are the benefits of obviously membership with you guys, and love your messaging to students and your authenticity in that as well. So really thankful for your time, both of you. I'm sure we will meet again at some point, and for our students, I know you'll certainly be rubbing shoulders with a lot of them as they obviously finish their masters and then move forward in your direction. So thank you again for your time, and we'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Johanna. Thanks, Nigel.
Look forward to rubbing shoulders.
Yes, certainly. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.